Thank you for coming to this Commonwealth Observer Group press conference. Let me start by expressing the Commonwealth Group's profound sadness at the outbreak of violence by supporters of the opposition and the excessive use of force by the security services in the last 24 hours. Regrettably, this has resulted in a number of fatalities, and we extend our sympathies to the families and loved ones of all those affected by these deeply troubling incidents. We categorically denounce the excessive use of force against unarmed civilians and wish to urge all parties to exercise restraint. Ladies and gentlemen, we're presenting our preliminary statements at a critical juncture in the electoral process. While this statement should, under normal circumstances, cover the just completed phases of the election process, that is the pre-election environment, election day, the counts, and the tally process, we're compelled to reflect on the events of yesterday and their potential impact on the entire electoral process. The progress achieved so far could be undermined if all parties and their supporters do not demonstrate tolerance and respect for the rule of law. The electoral process is yet to conclude, and we are at a moment in Zimbabwean history that calls for the greatest maturity and leadership. All parties must exercise patience and restraint while we await the announcement of full results without further delay. While the nation is the overall winner in any successful election, there can be only one person elected at a time, and all legitimate grievances arising out of an electoral contest must be pursued through due process and not on the streets. We urge the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to expedite the announcement of full results. Any further delays creates opportunities for speculation about possible manipulation of the results. Political leaders must be magnanimous in victory and gracious in defeat. As the result phase draws to a close, it is our fervent hope that the wish of all Zimbabweans for a credible, peaceful, and democratic process will be realized. It has been 16 years since the Commonwealth observed elections in Zimbabwe. We were last here for the 2002 presidential elections. This election, therefore, is of great significance, and it's a privilege to be here in support of the people of Zimbabwe at another critical juncture in their democratic journey. Again, we wish to express the hope that peace will prevail. The preliminary statement of the Commonwealth Observer Group is being issued while the results tabulation process is still underway. We will share the full preliminary statement with you, which covers the pre-election period till now, so I can take any questions if there are any. Our full assessment of the entire process, including any recommendations for improvement, will be contained in our final report, which will also be made available to the public. This indeed is a watershed moment for Zimbabwe, which should not be squandered. The Commonwealth stands in solidarity with the people of Zimbabwe at this time. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Now, as our Chair has said, our full interim statement, our full preliminary statement is in the handout you received there. It's going live on our website as we speak, and it contains a complete summary of what our Electoral Observation Group has been doing since it arrived on the 23rd of July. Right, the floor is open for questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. When I acknowledge you, please let us know who you are and the media outlet you represent. Sir.
Thank you so much.
We've got a microphone coming, I think. A little slowly, but coming.
Thank you. My name is Tula Sizwe from ENCA. Zimbabwe has expressed keenness to rejoin the Commonwealth. When you judge what has happened in this election, pre-election period, as well as the voting, but also taking into account what you've noted, the events of yesterday, how does that sit in terms of the Commonwealth values and what you stand for as an organization? how do you think that will play into that attempt, that desire to be part of the Commonwealth group of nations?
Well, like I said in our arrival statement, the decision about joining the Commonwealth is not ours. We were sent here as an independent observer group to file a report of what we observed in the course of the election. We're going to file that faithfully, and we have an interim statement, and the decision about joining the Commonwealth is left to the heads of government.
Yes, please. We've got a mic coming your way if you're just a little patient.
Caroline Debe, France 24. I'd like to know your point of view regarding the irregularity that the opposition is stating. And one of them is this V11 form issue that was also noticed by some local observers. Did you observe that 21% of the V11 forms haven't been signed? And if yes, what does it entail?
Well, parties are supposed to have their agents at the polling station, and they're supposed to append their signatures to the form at the end of the process. There are periods where party agents might refuse to append their signatures. I believe that there are legal processes that parties can resort to if they feel that something untoward happened at a certain level of the election process. And so that would be a matter for the ZEC to deal with in their electoral management.
But is the figure of 21% of the V11 form not signed credible for you?
It's not for me to determine whether it's credible. I believe that events unfold at the polling station, and every party has agents at the polling station. And if they have an objection that things didn't go well, they can refuse to sign, but there must be a reason why they didn't sign. And so if they don't agree with the count or something, it's their decision to do so. But we believe that if ZEC expedites release of the results, then it makes it easier for all the parties in the process to validate whether those results are the accurate results or not. And that's why the delay in releasing the results is causing anxiety.
The gentleman in front, please.
Kimson Gupta from the Independent newspaper in London. You say that you denounce the use of, I think you said, excessive force against unarmed civilians. And you take that to mean that you condemn the use of the military in the street of Harare against unarmed civilians. And you urge the government to ensure the military now stays in the barracks and are not used in place of civil powers.
I think that in times of manifestations, civil manifestations, there are rules of engagement that need to be followed. And I believe that circumstances in which live ammunition is used against unarmed civilians, I don't think it's appropriate. And we said that quite clearly. We denounce the violence and the vandalism that took place, but at the same time, we denounce the excessive use of force by the security agencies.
I'm scanning the room. I'm not seeing any hands. Yes, on the far left, please.
My name is Aisha Ismail from France 24.
I think the mic's coming your way.
Aisha Ismail from France 24. Sir, I've gone through your press release, and there are 3 words missing from your press release, unless I'm not seeing them, and it's free, fair, and credible. Is there any reason why those 3 words are not in your statement?
This is a preliminary statement, and we have detailed several observation points under different categories: the pre-election environment, the voting day, the counting, and all that. And exactly what we observed is what we've written there. Our final assessment about the standard of the election will be contained in our final report.
Yes, at the back.
Can I go ahead without it?
No, you can't.
I'm with the Associated Press. Can you tell us a little bit about the irregularities that you are receiving from your observers? What some of those irregularities experienced by observers have been?
Well, there are different issues that we observe, positive and negative. I must say that in several polling stations, the polling officials went about their duties quite efficiently. The layout was good, people voted in secret, but there were other issues that didn't go so well. There are incidents of assisting with voting. There was a certain process to be followed, and in some of the cases, the procedure was not followed accurately. There are many other incidents that we noted of persons standing within a certain distance of polling stations and trying to influence people the way they should vote. But I mean, there were positive things and there were negative things, but we've detailed all that in our statement.
Before I give a follow-on question, is there any reporter in the room who has yet to ask a question, who would like to ask a question? Then France van Catherine.
There are some allegations regarding the voters' roll. There are some allegations that the rural areas have been overrepresented, and we hear from the opposition allegation that in some villages, there are more voters than inhabitants. Did you observe that?
Well, before the election, there were concerns raised about the voters' roll. You can come to that conclusion only by a comprehensive audit of the roll. Unfortunately, we have no access to such an audit, and so I cannot reach that same conclusion. But like I said, every concern that any party to the election has must be addressed legitimately using due process and not through violence.
Yes, please, Financial Times. It's a long journey for the mic, but it is coming your way.
David Pillin, Financial Times. I arrived late, so apologies if this has already been dealt with. But the opposition were saying they were confused and frankly sceptical that results were coming in from very distant polling stations in the deep rural polling stations before polling stations would appear to be much easier to get results from, and that they saw this as, in a sense, a way of softening up the opposition for the putative coming loss. You can't comment on the second factor, but were you surprised at the order in which results came in?
Well, I'm not aware that we have any results from the presidential. You might be talking about
parliamentary.
Yeah. Results are counted and tallied at different paces all across the polling stations, and we, as a group, observed the counts in many such polling stations. In many places, the process was very laborious, and they went through several rounds of verification, and so they would probably have finished counting at the wee hours of the morning. In many other places, the counting might have been expedited. And so how the results arrive, I mean, we're not able to tell which results should arrive first. It depends on who are in charge of the process and how the process was managed. But like I said, these are grievances being expressed by one party to the electoral process. And they must be addressed legitimately. They must compile their grievances and present them through the legitimate means and not through violence on the streets.
Yes, here at the front.
Chulasizwe Simelani again from ENCA. Sir, I see that you mentioned what you're calling incidents of intimidation, media bias, and hate speech, which you say indicates that the playing field can be further leveled. Could you elaborate a bit on that statement?
Yeah, there are incidents that we picked up. Hate speech, especially using social media, and abuse directed at polling officials, and I think that is to be condemned. There were, like I said, a few incidents of intimidating voters, and in other cases trying to influence voters which direction they should cast their votes, and we think that that is not acceptable. And so we're saying that more work needs to be done to create equal opportunities for all stakeholders.
At the back.
With regards to the media, I'm referring to access to the media. We noticed that there was a predominance of access to the media by the incumbent party as against the opposition party.
Thank you. My name is Nyasha Chigono from the Zimbabwe Independent. To what extent does the outcome of this election affect EU Commonwealth's relations with Zimbabwe, since Zimbabwe would want to rejoin the Commonwealth?
I think I answered that question already.
Sorry, I was late.
I think everyone might appreciate it if you gave a honest answer.
Okay, I answered that question already. Yes, we are aware that Zimbabwe is making a request to rejoin the Commonwealth after it withdrew several years ago. That is going to be a matter that the heads of government will be seized with, and that decision is theirs to make. Our duty here was to observe an election and present a report, which is exactly what we're doing.
No, excuse me, Kemi, the lady at the back. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Violet Gonda. A lot of people, a lot of Zimbabweans want to know what exactly do the observers do when they are observing the elections and also the issues around the elections, because yesterday many of the observers were camped out inside the Sheraton at the bar while the protesters were basically clashing with the riot police. So what exactly do you observe? When there's danger, do you just stay in the hotels or what? Can you at least explain to us about this?
Well, we don't live in the Sheraton, so but I guess that we have guidelines for conduct of observers, and with the Commonwealth we follow those guidelines strictly. We do not, we make our observers fan out and observe the election. We do not place them in the way of danger. If something were happening, we're not going to ask observers to go in the midst of shooting, and so they might as well stay in a place of safety. But it depends on which group it is. I don't know about sitting by the bar and drinking while people are demonstrating. I don't think that any of our group has done that. We've been busy working on our report, and we finished it in the wee hours of last night, and we're presenting it to you this morning.
At the front, please.
My name is John Kassim from Channel Africa, SABC. Just to follow up maybe on the last question on what to really observe. We are receiving reports that there has been a tendency of swapping figures, those belonging to MDC candidates being placed on a ZANU-PF candidates. Yesterday, there's an example of what happened at Chebut West. The losing candidate from ZANU-PF was declared the winner, and only to be turned when the MDC candidate complained with proof that he had won. Have you also observed that, and what do you say to the system?
I cannot answer to isolated cases, and so I wouldn't be able to say what happened in this particular circumstance. But let me explain that Zimbabwe's electoral process is very rudimentary. It's manual. It's not IT-based. I've seen more sophisticated electoral systems, especially for transmission of results. It makes it possible to police the poll at every stage of the electoral process. And that is why party agents are made to watch the poll at the polling station level, and at the end of the polling process to watch the filling of the forms and have the exact results. And so it's possible for parties to do their independent and parallel tallying, so that at the end of the process, you can compare your figure with whatever the final results that come out with. If there's a violent disagreement, then you know that something has happened at a certain stage of the process. And so political parties must not abdicate their responsibility in this process, because they also have a role to play to ensure the integrity of the poll. And that's why party agents must be well trained, they must be available at all polling stations, they must witness every aspect of the voting process. And for the polling stations that we went to, the two major parties were well represented at almost all the polling stations. And in the counting process, the party agents were there. At the end of the process, in some cases, they were allowed to take pictures of the results sheets. And so I believe that parties should by now be doing their own parallel tallying and making a comparison with what happened and what the eventual outcome of the elections will be from ZEC. And I'll emphasize again that if there are any disagreements or any reports of any anomalies from the polling stations or the ward level or the district level, parties must redress them through the use of legitimate means.
But to what extent? To what extent? Because this is what happened in Zimbabwe in the last three elections, you know? And I mean, I think the Zimbabweans are waiting for you to say if this election is really credible. If you tell the Zimbabweans that now they need to go to court and they only get their case in 2 or 3 years, they've lost the election. It's too late. People are waiting for observers to say, are there irregularities or not? So you should know by now if you have problems in the rural areas, problems with the V11. People are waiting for you to say it.
Yeah, but have you read the report? We've distributed the report, and we've noted all the incidents that we observed in that report. And so when you read the report, you can come to your conclusion about the credibility of the election.
So the V11, are they 21% for this V11?
I know you're obsessed about those forms, you understand? And unfortunately, I'm not the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, so I cannot make a pronouncement on that, even though you want me to.
Yes, at the back. Can we get the microphone back in action? Thanks.
Violet Gonda again. Since you were observing yesterday, can you tell us what exactly did you see? Because the police say that the protesters provoked the police, and that's why they had to call in the army. So what exactly did you see? And did you see the army shooting at people? Can you at least tell us what the Commonwealth Observer Mission saw yesterday during the disturbances?
Well, it wasn't our duty to observe the demonstration. We were busy with report writing, but we have followed the incidents that happened, and we believe violent demonstrations is not the way to go. Vandalizing people's property is not the way to go. But at the same time, when unarmed civilians are doing a manifestation or protesting, live ammunition, should not be used in circumstances like that. You use every other means of crowd control, water cannons, tear gas, and all that to try and restore law and order. Often live ammunition is not the way to go. And so we have indicated in the report that we believe that the use of force was excessive.
Has everybody had a chance to ask a question who would like to ask a question? Madam.
My name is Anna Chibamare for News Zimbabwe Online. Okay. My name is Anna Chibamare for News Zimbabwe Online. Okay, you're saying you don't know what really happened yesterday, but you just heard that there was violence and property was destroyed. Have you started any investigations? If so, how far are you with those investigations?
We have indicated our views about what happened yesterday, and I read a statement on that. And we have said that the use of force was excessive, but at the same time, we believe that political parties should not resort to violence in redressing their grievances. I think that is straight to the point. We are not seized with the instruments of conducting an investigation of the Zimbabwean security services and the demonstrators to find out exactly what happened. It's not in our mandate to do so.
Isn't it part of your mandate as well to know what's really happening on the ground? so that you produce a credible report.
Yeah, so we have stated that there was an incident, and we've drawn conclusions about what we thought that incident was. That there were violent demonstrations, there was some destruction of people's property, and there was a response from the Zimbabwean security services that we believe was disproportionate.
Asked 3 times and answered 3 times. Are there other questions?